So to start off, I want to start with a story. So 5 years ago, two friends of mine were working on a game. This game was going to be the best game out there. It was going to reach millions of people, and they spent a lot of months working on it. The game was called Drop the Box, and when it launched, nothing happened. Instead of giving up, they were able to convince another friend to join them. And this time, they went ahead and researched all App Store to look at what was missing. They identified that the Mario Kart experience was missing, which is an experience that maybe some of you have from playing in your basement with friends on a split screen and really seeing the expression on your friend when you crush him or her. So they worked hard, they launched a game, and nothing really happened. But compared to last time, this game was something that the friends really, really liked. So instead of giving up and starting on the next project, they were really hustling to get more users. They even put up a booth at our university where they were able to actually get 1/5 of the campus to play the games. They also awarded someone with a lifetime supply of candy if they won parts of the game. And after 3 months and a lot of hustling, it started to pay off. And the key differentiator was that in the game, there was a part where you communicated directly to the player. And here it said, tweet about #funrun for a chance to win 10,000 coins. This was the key moment where they had enough market penetration and it started to go viral on Twitter. And it was very much thanks to people using #funrun to communicate about the game. So Funrun is the game. It's 4 very cute characters that are chopping each other up in the race for fame and glory. And now, 5 years later, the Funrun game series has reached more than 85 million downloads. And maybe what I'm most proud of is that it's reached more than 15% of the US population. And that is still with a small indie team of 10 people. And during that time, we were profitable, but we were never able to do any paid user acquisition. We had a synchronous multiplayer race where if we did any sort of paid-to-win features, people wouldn't play it. So we were forced to acquire new users through being super creative. And now that the prices are $3.5 per user, really anyone here can afford doing any paid user acquisition, which means that we all have to help each other and find ways that we can beat the system and get growth. So in this presentation, I am going to talk about just that. And a year ago, this is usually what a marketing team meeting would look like if you were to spend money on user acquisition and it didn't pay off. So a year ago, one of the Dirty Bit founders, myself, and another friend, we set out to close this gap between the players in the industry that can actually do paid user acquisition and everyone else that can't. And now I'm going to talk about 12 different features that we think you should really consider when you're implementing design and growth features into your games. These are all based on our experience with building Funrun and reviewing a lot of popular apps out there that has made it. And we're also going to touch on do's and don'ts. So, first one out is that you should give your user a reason to opt in to push notification. And this is because 80% of users are only going to open your app once. This is average. But it means that you only have one shot to really show that a player should stay with you. Then why is most games introducing you with this? You're opening a game for the first time, and you're being asked to opt in to push notification. I don't find that being a very good experience. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of our users do it either. So rather, people tend to be very, very mad when they received all these push notifications and it doesn't make sense to them. So instead, you should do as SteppyPens does. They deliver special rewards every 20-ish minutes. And when you've done one, they ask you, do you want to set a reminder? And if you're concerned with receiving these rewards, of course you're going to accept that. It's a great way. And this happens maybe like 10 minutes into the game when you really know what you're doing. You might get less people opting in, doing it later, but you're going to have much happier players because they know why you're pushing with push notifications. So secondly is you should really test sending your players directly into a game. A lot of games have login scenes, they have endless tutorials, but really most players are coming to a game through organic sources. Most likely their friends are telling them, you should play this. Then why would you then take them through all these steps and not just take them straight into a game so they can really experience it and understand if they like it or not? So with FunRun, we made it an effort to have a 2-click way to get into a game. We wanted you to be able to pick up the phone, click twice, and then be playing. This is also something I like with agar.io. When they launched, all you had to do was to type in a nickname. You can type whatever, and you didn't even have to type anything. And it's very clear what they want you to do. They want you to get into the game and experience it. Yes. They actually don't have much of tutorial either. And when we were launching FunRun 2, we created this massive tutorial, or not massive, but we had to introduce new power-ups, we thought. And then we ended up A/B testing it, and it turned out that players that were thrown straight into the game had higher retention than the players that had to go through all the learning. You should also consider making your game very, very intuitive. And all of these tips is things that if you don't consider it, it's going to hinder your growth. You should look at your friends, toddlers, anyone, and see how they are understanding the flow of your game. Are there too many hassles to go through? And I like to call it the grandma test because if your grandma gets it, anyone gets it. And I want to also add that this advice is very much focused on a casual audience, which means that if you're making hardcore games, you might not cater to your grandma audience, but she will definitely pinpoint constraints in your onboarding flow. And then fourth, when you're doing any sort of marketing initiative, you should really consider your player base and who they are and what the perfect timing to reach them would be. For us, the player base was high school kids and college grads. And there's 2 times during the year when this demographic is more likely to play a game than any other. Anyone want to take a guess of when this is? After school? Good guess. It has to do with school. Summer, maybe. What we found, good guesses though, what we found is that when they're having their finals, the weeks of finals, is the best time to reach out to this audience. Because what are they most likely to do? Procrastinate. No one wants to actually be studying, so they're looking for excuses to do something else. So we were really, really lucky with our timing, and when we hit the hockey curve, that was right around this time. So really, not a lot of people actually time their launch like that. So I'm sorry, it's a little bit high here, but this is a graph that shows the FunRun game ranking on the US App Store. And what it shows is that it ranked on the top of the store during the Christmas winter time of 2011/12, no, 12/13. And then without us really prompting them, they were being re-triggered by themselves as they approached new finals the next year to be like, hey, what did we do last year? Oh, damn, we played Fun Run. Let's check that game out again. So they did. So when we decided to launch Fun Run 2, we launched it exactly when finals started, 3rd of December. And it resulted in Fun Run 2 going straight up the charts because everyone was looking for that experience again. I want to procrastinate. And they felt good about it because they could do it together. And then 5th, you should really make your game public, meaning that the gaming experience, even though it's a single-player experience, it helps multiplayer, should trigger you to be screaming, or your players to be screaming, to be laughing, to have some sort of outcry. Probably seen how this is occurring in a lot of parks and landmarks across the country and the world. It even gets a little bit out of hand at times. All to get that Charizard. It's like, it's crazy. And people are going nuts. And then some of you might have played Space Team. If not, I highly recommend it during your next team building. Get together 4 people and play and scream your lungs out. It's awesome. It really shows the true self of your friends. And with Fun Run, I'm just going to show you a brief collection of part of what it looked like when people were playing, as it was very, very public.
No! Yes! Go! Yes! Go! Kyle! Yeah! First, baby! No!
So, next one up is your players are the best ones to know who else will like your game. And in the game, there are moments that are really triggering them to share this with their friends. But the key here, when you want your players to share something, is that it should be personal to them. It shouldn't be a generic image or video. It should be something that really shows you and your pride or your misfortune, however you want to present it. So word of mouth is the main driver for any game out there. And you need to cater for that, and you need to enable your players to do as much word of mouth for you. And in that sense, people are communicating with words, but words are not as much as images. People like to see things visually. So in that sense, when I was playing Agar, I hated that every second I would lift my thumbs up and press the screenshot to show that I actually hit, this wasn't my best score. I did get to number 5, but I didn't want to lose my spot. Seconds are precious. So for Agar, we wanted them to add a screenshot in there. And then for Crossroad, they're really good at capturing that moment when you hit a car. It's perfect, it's funny, very, very funny. It can be also quite brutal. And then with Stamped, you're actually able to rotate the camera in terms of what type of capture you want to do. Which, like, no one is going to have the same pictures as you. There's a lot of pride in that. Then images are good, but GIFs are even better. It's short, it's capturing a brief moment, and it autoplays on most platforms. So in this game, Adult Coloring Book, you're able to see everything that a player is doing, and you know immediately, oh, I like coloring books, or I don't like it. And by receiving something like that, you're either, if you end up downloading it, you're more likely to use it because you know that it's something you like. And then for Steppy Pants, they've done a great job really capturing that moment where this is something Crossroads should be doing as well, is when you step on the wrong tile or you're being hit by a car. So 7th is to make it easy to share, because you can have all these moments that you want your players to talk about, but you don't actually know exactly when your player is having that moment. So one thing that Crossroad is doing really well is that they have a subtle share button on any screen in the game. So it's so easy for you to go there as a player and share it if you want to. And it's not always relevant. So that's why you shouldn't just make it easy to share, you should also make it relevant to share. And one way that Steppy Puns does this really, really well is that once you hit a high score, you're being prompted to share. There's no better or more relevant session than that. And if they are capturing these awesome moments outside of getting a new high score, they can just click the share button down below. It's great. And then you should also let your players choose where to share something, because your players are getting more and more picky and more personal in that sense. People don't really like to spam their Facebook wall anymore. It feels really, really intrusive. And this is an example from Candy Crush Soda Saga, and it doesn't work that way anymore. So our recommendation is that you should really let the choice be up to the player. And what we see from our data is that SMS or iMessage is by far the most popular channel and best converting channel. And secondly, email. It's not social media the way it used to be. People are being more restrictive about who they share what with. Things are going from social to messaging, and you should too. And the good thing about the share sheet from Apple is that a player that uses it often has most likely optimized it for which channels they are sharing to more often. And then 10th, you should have, if you are prompting your players to share, you should also make it so easy that they can just hit send by having predefined texts. And with Fun Run, this is where we have a screen share. So to the right, there's a camera, and if you hit it, you can share to Twitter. And here, that game is catered for the Twitter audience. And we went and looked at how are our players communicating on Twitter. What's the language? What's the wording? And we used that, and it was triggered by elements in the game. So I just beat a golden fox, get on my level, son, want to catch an L. All those guys just got washed. Everyone wants to feel belonging. So instead of thinking about how you're communicating to people that are outside your game, you should think about how to communicate it to your existing players, because that's the community, and they are eventually going to let more friends in, and they might be even more curious if they're talking in a language that they don't understand, sort of like the secretive ways. 11th, you should really enable deep linking and universal linking to improve the onboarding experience. For instance, for Crossroad, if you click the link, you're taken to their website, and then you need to make the choice of finding whatever store you're on. But what they should rather do is to make it personal, show that it was me who invited them, incentivize them to download, and be able to giving that incentive and have a clear call to action, like you want them to download to the App Store. And actually, they should bypass this whole thing and just send them straight to the App Store and give this messaging when the player opens the game. That's the ideal version. And this is an example of how this can look like in Give Me Fuel by WonderSpark. So I receive a text, and when I click the link, I'm being used universal linking to open the game, and I'm put straight into a match. And then 12th, last thing. Anything that you do, you should always try and be unique. You need to find your way and why people are going to talk about you and what's going to be a differentiator for you. Copying can only take you so far, but there needs to be something else to what you're doing. And we like to live on the edge when we were a part of Fun Run. I know all of you are playing games on your toilet, but not a lot of people are actually talking about it. As summary, you should give your users a reason to opt into push notification, test sending players straight into the game, pass the grammar test, find your timing, make your game public, let players capture personal moments from your game, make it easy to share, make it relevant to share, let players choose which channels to share with, have a pool of predefined text, use deep linking and universal linking for improved onboarding, and be unique. So I think all of you are mega cool. Thank you for listening. And I hope that this was valuable and that there's something clear, actionable things for you to take with you and go on and conquer the world. Thank you.